Hello, welcome back to Fortress Festival. It's George here from Devlog, and now I am here with the Watcher from Fen. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Sort of settling into the fest.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, my last band that I spoke to was from Britain. You're from Lincolnshire, is this?
Well, Suffolk, technically.
Suffolk.
So the band was born in the sort of corner of Suffolk. It's on the border of Cambridgeshire, Norfolk, and Suffolk, but technically Suffolk. But on the edge of the Fens, but the eastern side.
And hence the name Fen.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I looked into a bit. It's actually a universal name for marshland, isn't it?
Yeah, effectively, yeah. A fen is a type of reclaimed wetland. I mean, that whole area we grew up was underwater in the 19th century. It's drained by specialist Dutch engineers, and as a result, it's incredibly flat. It's quite desolate. It's quite bleak. Not much happening. So for a teenage lad getting into black metal in the mid 90s, it was
especially when the fog comes down there. It's like something out of a black metal video already.
This is exactly it, but kind of different. So a lot of black metal bands, particularly in that era, were inspired by Norwegian landscapes, mountains, forests. We didn't have that, and it would have been a bit disingenuous to talk about that when you're surrounded by empty fields of peat. So that just sort of seeped in, became a natural source of inspiration.
Absolutely. I heard recently about I'm always fascinated with musicians who take influence from their surroundings, because inspiration can come from all sorts of things. Black metal is synonymous with doing that. But I remember hearing that Justin Broderick from Godflesh was inspired by, the fact that his window opened onto a brick wall. And that was, and you can hear that in the music.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean? That sort of bleak urban disenchantment. And these things shape us. They seep into us, and they become part of our subconscious, and they become part of our identity. Is how I would feel. I mean, I have to be honest. I live in London. I've lived in London since the late 90s. I moved there to study, but my parents still live in the Fens. We go back there. I spend a lot of time there, and so it's still something that's intrinsic. Particularly, I think when you're growing up somewhere, when you're in that formative space between the age of 14 and 18. I think what you experience during those parts of your life really shape who you are, and it's still now I'm coming to terms with how much of an impact that's had on what I do and how I approach things. It's part of the journey and part of self-actualization.
Yeah, absolutely. That really rings true with the way I've been thinking recently, which was that a lot of the music that I listened to, especially when I was 16, has really informed quite a lot of my listening in some way, shape, or form. So when you first started Fen, how old would you have been then?
Well, when the band was formed, so we were thinking about this just recently. So next year is technically the band's 20th anniversary. So our very first rehearsal as a band was the first weekend of 2006. But really, it was the material in those earlier sessions was written in 2005. So really, around now is the 20th anniversary of the band. So Fen as that identity has been around for 20 years. So I was about 25, 26 at that point. But I'd really been making black metal much earlier than that. And again, I've been thinking back to this. I was making tapes on my 4-track when I was 16, 17. And I do remember putting some material together when I was about 18, 19, under the aegis of Fen. And I spelt it with 2 N's at that point. It was just sort of landscapey bedroom black metal. So really the genesis of the project reaches back to that time, really. And, I'm tempted to dig out my 4-track and out of curiosity and see how that all sounds now. But the band in its form as it is now really sort of emerged. First, start of 2006, but 2005 is when the material started to grow and started to take shape. Most of the first album was written around then. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're going to be doing a full album set here first. It's the Malediction. Is it? Am I saying that right?
That Malediction Fields.
Malediction Fields. Some words I stumble on. That's right. But yes, you're doing that in full.
Yep. That was. We wanted to do something special for Fortress. It was. We played. So I played here last year with my other project, Fell Warden, which was our debut live gig, and that was a really, really nice experience. And it was really, great surroundings, really good. It's a really good feel at this festival.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Everyone's in a good mood. It's nice to not be sandwiched into sort of claustrophobic venues in London. It's nice to come here and be able to breathe. And I think that's reflected in how everyone is here. Everyone just seems a bit more relaxed and open-minded. Yeah. So I thought, we wanted to perform here as Fen with Acidolka headlining. It was, it felt like almost a no-brainer. But we go back quite a way with those guys, and it would have been great to play with them. But I thought we can't just play a normal set. We've got to do something which is a bit of a statement. And I thought, well, technically, as far as I'm concerned, Fen is kind of 20 years old in its current form this year. So I thought, well, let's play the first album. A lot of that material in my mind is now 20 years old.
Yeah.
So I thought, let's do that. And I thought, if we're going to do it, let's get our old keyboard player back. Let's see if he wants to do it. I mean, we reached out to him, and he was actually up for it. I thought he'd just tell us to sod off immediately. But he's like, absolutely. I mean, it was about 2 a.m. in the pub when I broached the subject with him. But yeah, he was keen on it. So we've been rehearsing. It's been really nice. It's been sounding really good. It's really nice to revisit some of that material and dig through it. I mean, I had to dust off the old 16 track we recorded it on, and I had to bounce the synth tracks down so we could relearn them and stuff. And it was like, it's been nice refamiliarizing myself with that material because, as a band, for me, you're always in your current space. What you're working on at the moment is the reality, and what's done is done, and you visit when you play live, but that's the past. So it's been quite nice to sort of chisel into that and literally dust it off and brush the cobwebs off and drill into what you did and remind yourself of how you felt when that was being made, and the excitement of putting that together. So
absolutely. Do you feel like you're like in your playing, like did you have to sort of like make yourself a little bit more primitive, maybe? Because you'll have like slickened up since then.
It is, yeah. I mean, like that is very, very true. I mean, listening through it, I was like, Christ, some of this is really simple, and that's not to denigrate it, but it's like, but again, it's you don't. It's hard to appreciate the journey you've been on until you go back to the very beginning. And I'm like, Christ, we have come quite a long way in terms of how we write and the complexity of how we approach things, and not because we want to show off. It's just how we are, how we've grown as individuals.
It's more sophisticated now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's. Doesn't mean it's better. It's just it's different. We're approaching it in a different way. It's just something that comes naturally to us. But so listening to that old material, but it was like, but there are parts of it where I was like a little bit. I was like, this is actually quite interesting. This is more interesting than I've given it credit for. This isn't just some old stuff from the past. I was like, bits of this is like, wow, and you can draw a line between that and the most recent stuff, and it's like, there's that thread is still there. And it was, I was impressed with us 20 years ago. I was expecting, oh God, this is a bit. This is a bit, childish, and this is a little bit clumsy. But actually, I was like, I stand by this.
I do think some of the early recordings by any band are some of the most honest, because you're listening to a band who hasn't been affected by the industry yet. So it's like, they're not jaded yet.
No, that's exactly. I mean, listening back to it, the naivety is colossal. And this is. I mean, we've been in bands before. We weren't kids. I was 25. The rest of the guys were in their early 20s, and it was like we knew what music was about, but we hadn't taken a step into that much of the business element of it. And that album was recorded so primitively. We just did it on a digital 16 track. Most of it was done live. I mean, I listened to it. The bass track, you can hear the drums bleeding through onto it. It's just it's a microphone in front of a cab in a rehearsal room. There's no editing, there's no click tracks, there's no quantizing or anything like that. And but as you say, it's honest. And you can hear that honesty. And I think some people are getting a bit fatigued with stuff that sounds perfect, because music isn't perfect.
No,
it shouldn't be perfect.
Absolutely.
And I think more people than are honest with themselves, or can even articulate it to themselves, are bouncing off a lot of stuff these days, and they won't know exactly why. So that isn't sticking for me. But I think the brain almost filters it out. It's like, this isn't real.
No.
When your brain knows when it's being cheated. That's
exactly.
been auto-tuned, that's been programmed, that's been quantized.
That's too safe.
It's just not real. It's not real humans expressing themselves.
Exactly.
This is a digital composite. So it's been nice to revisit that, and it's given me some thoughts as to how we might, how we're going to approach some future recordings. So
that was my next question. Is like, it's obviously your last album was a couple of years back now. Is there work towards?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm always writing. There's always creativity, as I said earlier. When it comes to the band, it comes to me. So I'm living in the present, or indeed the future. I'm looking at what's next. As soon as I've recorded an album, that's done. I'm not going to sit there and bask in it and go, "Oh, brilliant! We don't need to do anything now." It's like, we've still got something to say. Still got something we want to create and deliver. What's next? So we've got lots of stuff demoed, a lot of stuff written. Hopefully we're going to be able to get it recorded before the end of this year. But this exercise of revisiting the first album has been really, really helpful. I think it's going to inform how we approach that a lot more.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to go a lot more live. We're really going to reconnect with the whole Fen ethos, if you will. Both conceptually and musically. We're really going to dig into that.
That's amazing.
And and it's really exciting. It's sometimes exciting to rediscover what your band is about. We've approached a lot of different topics over the last 10 years, and the last album's quite externalizing, and it was quite angry.
It was an aggressive record.
It was aggressive, and it needed to be done. It was absolutely the album we had to make. But now I'm I almost feel like we're coming full circle, and like taking aspects of our first album, taking aspects of the album Winter that we did, which was very Finland themed, and really digging into that. That's the view I'm taking with this next one. So
the final question I'm asking everybody at this festival, right, is if you had like someone who's just totally unfamiliar with the genre, never really even listened to metal, but you had to explain black metal to them in one song, which song would you use that would sum it up nicely? And we've had Venom black metal already.
I would probably say, In the Still of the Northern Full Moon by Ethereal. The first track off the first Ethereal record. I think it covers so many bases, and it's an absolute masterpiece.
There we go. Absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for talking to me.
No problem. That's great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, sir.